Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Two heavyweights, one historic, desperate franchise, and a single, fiercely contested starting job on the line. Welcome to NFL Nexus. This is the home of our deep dive explainers, and honestly, I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this one today. Okay, we need to dive right into this, because what is happening in Berea right now, it isn't just your standard off-season storyline. No, it is a cinematic, high-stakes collision course, and it is going to define the entire future of the Cleveland Browns. We are looking at an incredibly tense battle between the high-priced veteran, Deshaun Watson, and the second-year pro, Shedeur Sanders. Now, before we really unpack the immense gravity of this situation, please do me a quick favor. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button on this explainer, and drop a comment letting us know what you think about this wild clash. And hey, if you want to go that extra mile, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Your support is quite literally what lets us keep building these massive, detailed deep dives for you. All right, let's hit the stage here. We have an offseason that is just brewing with tension. You've got millions of dollars on the line, and you've got a franchise that is standing on the absolute edge of a cliff. The air is thick, the expectations are volatile. You have to realize this is not just practice. This is a fight for survival. And to truly understand the weight of this, we kind of have to remember the historical context of Cleveland's quarterback woes. I mean, since 1999, this franchise has cycled through dozens of starting quarterbacks. Just an endless search for a savior, enduring a relentless, agonizing carousel of dashed hopes. We've all seen that infamous jersey with the list of crossed-out names, right? That dark history makes this specific, highly charged battle feel even more monumental. The ghosts of all those past failures are just hovering right over this current training camp.
But wait, let's take a tense pause here for a second. You have to ask yourself, is the Browns' quarterback battle just an illusion? We really have to ask this question because, if we're being honest, in the modern NFL, true quarterback controversies are incredibly rare, like almost non-existent. Usually the script is written months in advance. Think about how modern NFL front offices actually operate. When you have massive, fully guaranteed contracts, that usually ensures a starting spot unconditionally, regardless of how training camp looks. The GM has to justify the money. Or, on the flip side, an incredibly high draft pick forces a rookie onto the field immediately to justify that draft capital investment. So when rumors began circulating earlier this summer about a real competition in Cleveland, a lot of people in the NFL community just rolled their eyes. They assumed this was a mirage, right? Just smoke and mirrors designed by the front office to manipulate the media and maybe trick other teams. A lot of insiders thought the fix was already in and that the starter was already decided behind closed doors.
So that brings us to Section 1, Truth Behind Trade Rumors.
Which brings us directly to the massive elephant in the room, the whispers. The persistent, loud noise that the Browns are simply puffing up Shedeur Sanders to boost his trade value. You see, earlier in the summer, reports surfaced that there'd actually been calls regarding Sanders' availability. Other teams were sniffing around. So the cynical perspective floating around the league was that all these stories about Sanders closing the gap on Watson, they were meticulously planted. People thought it was a calculated front office maneuver to drum up interest and extract heavy draft capital from some desperate quarterback-needy team. Honestly, it's a classic NFL tactic, right? You create a bidding war for a backup by making him look like a starting caliber savior in camp. But then, that whole illusion shatters. Listen to this quote from deeply connected Browns reporter Mary Kay Cabot. Quote, "I think when Todd Monken says he has two starting quarterbacks, he means it." End quote. I want you to read that again on the screen and just let the weight of those words sink in. First-year Browns head coach Todd Monken is not playing games here. Cabot, who honestly has her finger on the pulse of this organization better than almost anyone in the business, she completely dismissed the lip service theory. She firmly stated that they are not just trying to puff up Sanders for a trade opportunity. This is real. The front office is not manufacturing this tension in the media. The tension is happening organically right there on the grass between two men who are fighting tooth and nail for the exact same territory.
And the timeline of this battle is what truly makes it fascinating. Cabot noted that at the end of voluntary minicamp, way back in April, it actually looked like Deshaun Watson had the definitive edge. He had more command of the offense, the ball was coming out on time, it looked like the veteran was just going to cruise through the summer, no problem. But then, the narrative completely shifted. As OTAs and mandatory minicamp went along, Shedeur Sanders systematically closed that gap. Cabot states, quote, "Heading into camp, it's sort of a dead heat for that job." A dead heat, let that sink in. Going into late July, nobody inside that building truly knows how this is going to turn out. And think about what that means inside an actual NFL locker room. When a highly paid, highly scrutinized veteran starts losing his edge to a second-year pro, the entire dynamic of the team completely changes. The humiliation of losing ground, it forces a reaction. Players start silently choosing sides in the locker room. The defensive guys start whispering. The pressure mounts on every single throw, every single dropback. It is a powder keg.
Let's look at how he responded in Section 2, Watson's Summer Training Counterstrike.
I want you to imagine the immense psychological weight on Deshaun Watson right now. Zach Jackson of The Athletic reported that Watson, throughout the spring, looked like the exact same inconsistent player he was through his first 3 seasons in Cleveland. That is an absolutely devastating critique for a player of his pedigree, a guy who used to be considered elite. So what does a cornered fighter do? He launches a counterstrike. You see, the NFL mandates a 7-week summer break for its players. The CBA requires it. It's a time to heal your body, to go on vacation, to basically disappear before the brutal grind of the season begins. But Deshaun Watson, he is opting in. He made a major, unprecedented decision to return to the cross-country mortgage campus in Berea. And let me tell you, the atmosphere there during the dead period is completely different. The halls are eerily silent, the coaches are all on vacation with their families, the intense summer heat beats down on an empty, quiet practice field. But Watson chose to spend his valuable off-season time grinding in the shadows. This isn't just about getting reps to get reps. This is a clear, undeniable, blaring message to Todd Monken, to the front office, and especially to Shedeur Sanders. Watson is signaling a profound level of urgency. He knows his back is against the wall.
So the crucial point we need to understand is, what exactly is he doing in that empty facility? He isn't just out there throwing the ball around aimlessly to stay loose. No, he has engineered a desperate, meticulous, private training camp. He brought in his private physical therapist, Billy Voltaire. He brought in his personal quarterbacks coach, Quincy Avery. And he is out there throwing to local receivers just to get a live look. We have to dig into the microscopic details here, because what he's doing is tearing down his mechanics and rebuilding them completely from the ground up. Reports suggest he is intensely focused on his hip rotation, making sure his lower body is properly married to his upper body on every single release so he doesn't sail the ball. He is obsessively working on his drop-back footwork, trying to eliminate those slight split-second hesitations that lead to late throws and interceptions. He is meticulously adjusting his arm angles to find consistency. This is surgical. He is literally attempting to rewire his muscle memory off the clock. The presence of Voltaire and Avery proves this isn't some cheap PR stunt for Instagram. This is a highly technical, desperate attempt to save his career and hold off the young challenger who is breathing right down his neck.
And this brings us to the relentless timeline of this summer battleground. June 11th, minicamp ended, leaving that bitter taste of a dead heat in everyone's mouth. Then comes mid-July. Watson is hosting offensive teammates for a private passing camp down in South Florida to build chemistry. Standard veteran move, right? But here is the massive narrative twist. Shedeur Sanders isn't shying away. Sanders explicitly said he would join Watson's session in Florida instead of hosting his own. Just think about the intense psychological warfare of that decision for a second. Sanders showing up on Watson's turf. The blistering Florida heat bearing down as these two bitter rivals share the exact same space, throwing to the exact same guys, silently comparing every single release, every single spiral, every single read. It's wild. Then late July, official training camp begins. And looming over all of this, circled in red ink on the calendar, is August 15th, the preseason opener against the Chicago Bears. Every single day on this timeline is an absolute pressure cooker, and neither guy can afford to blink.
Let's broaden the scope in Section 3, the NFL's truest competition.
Let's zoom out for a second. We've looked at the microscopic details of their training, but how does the rest of the league view this unprecedented scenario? Because in a league built on predetermined outcomes, draft pedigree, and strict financial hierarchies, what is happening in Cleveland right now stands entirely alone. ESPN NFL Live analyst Field Yates absolutely nailed it with this take. Quote, "This is the truest quarterback competition in the NFL." I really want you to think about that word, truest. It strongly implies that other quarterback competitions around the league are false, that they are merely theatrical performances put on for the fans and the media. Yates knows exactly what he's talking about. He has a deep background working in actual NFL front offices and is incredibly plugged into league operations. He knows when a team is spinning a PR web and when a battle is absolutely genuine. By saying this, he is elevating the scale of this clash, telling us the normal rules of NFL politics have been completely suspended in Cleveland.
And this brings us to a really stark contrast between the league standard and the Cleveland reality. Typically, if you look around the NFL, if a young quarterback narrowly outperforms a veteran in camp, the team will almost always still lean on the veteran to start the season. Why? To alleviate pressure on the young player, to protect their draft investment from getting rattled early, to manage the media narrative and appease the locker room veterans. But the Cleveland reality? It is entirely different. It is a harsh, unfiltered, raw meritocracy.
As Yates argues, whoever performs best in training camp, completely regardless of their contract, regardless of their age, regardless of their draft status, should and very likely will start Week 1. There is no safety net here.
So let's look at our two heavyweights neutrally for a moment and dissect the massive financial and contextual gap between them. On one side, you have Deshaun Watson, a veteran burdened by a historic, fully guaranteed $230 million contract. He is fighting desperately to reclaim the elite form he once had, spending his off weeks meticulously trying to erase his inconsistencies. The sheer weight of that contract demands greatness. It demands perfection. On the other side, you have Shedeur Sanders, a second-year pro who threw for 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns in a rollercoaster rookie year. He is on a drastically smaller, rookie-scale-esque financial structure. He is completely unburdened by those massive financial pressures that Watson is facing. He's rapidly closing the gap, and as we saw, he's bold enough to show up at Watson's own private passing camp. This stark financial contrast provides incredible depth to the tension. You have two completely different trajectories violently colliding at the exact same point in time, fighting for the exact same job.
So what does this all lead to? Section 4, the stakes this season. Which brings us to the ultimate bottom line of this explainer. Why does this matter so profoundly? What are the true stakes of this battle? Because this isn't just about who gets to hold the clipboard on Sundays. This intense, grueling fight dictates the entire future of the Cleveland Browns in 2026. Plus 1,050. These are the brutal, unforgiving odds from DraftKings Sportsbook for the Cleveland Browns having the fewest wins in the entire NFL. They currently have the 5th highest odds in the whole league to hit absolute rock bottom. Why? Well, because the context around this team right now is terrifying. This is a rebuilding roster that just traded away their defensive anchor, star pass rusher Myles Garrett to the Rams in exchange for Jared Verse and draft compensation. I really need you to think about what losing a generational talent like Garrett means for this defensive scheme. There is no more automatic pressure on the opposing quarterback. The secondary is completely exposed without him collapsing the pocket every single play. The safety net on defense is gone. The floor for this team is absolutely terrifying right now.
So what is the exact standard they desperately need from their quarterback to avoid that catastrophic floor? The metric for success isn't MVP-level performance. They don't need Superman under center. They just need top 16 or 17 quarterback play. Literally, they just need average. And what does average actually look like statistically in the modern NFL? It means throwing for roughly 3,800 yards, maintaining a solid 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and hitting a completion percentage somewhere in the high 60s. That's it. Mary Kay Cabot laid this out perfectly. If Watson or Sanders can just hit those technical benchmarks and provide top half of the league stability, everything changes. The Browns went out and added weapons for whoever wins. They brought in KC Concepcion and Denzel Boston. If those young players step up, the infrastructure is there on offense. But the quarterback simply cannot be a liability, not this year.
And if they actually hit that top 16 metric, this is the magic number right here, 8. 8 wins. Maybe even 9 or 10 if the ball bounces their way. That is the potential minimum win total achievable if the winner of this heavyweight bout can simply play above-average football. The ceiling of the team drastically shifts, and with it, the entire stability of the organization. Achieving 8 or 9 wins isn't just about pride, it dictates the job security of the front office and the coaching staff. It prevents the total organizational teardown. The narrative completely flips from a team in a catastrophic, embarrassing rebuild to a team that is surprisingly competitive in a ruthless league. The entire difference between those plus 1050 fewest win odds and an 8-win competitive season rests entirely, 100%, on the shoulders of either Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders.
So, the final, lingering question we are left with today is this. After August 15th, when the Browns face the Chicago Bears in that critical preseason opener, when the private camps are over, when the South Florida Heat gives way to the stadium lights, who takes the first snap? And even more importantly, how will Todd Monken navigate the fallout of that game? The clock is ticking incredibly loudly in Berea, and the entire NFL is watching this genuine, uncut battle unfold. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive explainer. Remember to subscribe to NFL Nexus, hit that like button, leave a comment with your prediction on who wins this brutal battle, and consider supporting us by becoming a channel member. Until next time, who blinks first?